What happens when the kindest woman in Hollywood, a woman who has spent decades embodying grace, compassion, and unshakable composure, is pushed so far past her breaking point that she unleashes years of pent-up fury on live television? What happens when Jennifer Garner, America's sweetheart, the actress beloved for never speaking harshly about anyone, walks onto The View expecting a warm, friendly promotional interview, and instead finds herself caught in the most vicious ambush of her career? Asterisk. This isn't a typical celebrity disagreement. It isn't another awkward talk show moment forgotten by next week. This is the day Jennifer Garner, patient, forgiving, eternally optimistic Jennifer Garner, reached her absolute limit and delivered a verbal takedown so sharp, so righteously furious, that Joy Behar was left speechless, humiliated, and exposed as the cruel bully Jennifer had carefully avoided confronting for years. By the time Jennifer walked off that stage, the world would understand that even angels have breaking points, and when they break, the reckoning is biblical. Asterisk. The morning had begun innocently enough. Jennifer was there to promote her new film, a heartfelt drama about motherhood, resilience, and rebuilding life after tragedy. It was the kind of role that suited her perfectly: authentic, emotional, deeply human. Her publicist had confirmed the View appearance weeks earlier. Everything about it seemed routine. Show up, smile, talk about the movie, share a few behind-the-scenes stories. Easy, pleasant, and forgettable in the best way. Asterisk. Jennifer arrived at the ABC studios early, her signature warmth filling the room even in the dim pre-dawn light. She wore a soft blue dress, approachable yet elegant. Her makeup was natural, her smile genuine. She chatted with production assistants, asked the makeup artist about her daughter's college applications, and complimented the wardrobe stylist's earrings. She was simply being herself, kind, present, and sincerely interested in the people around her. The crew adored her instantly, as they always did. Asterisk. What Jennifer couldn't have known was that Joy Behar had spent the previous evening digging through old tabloid stories, gossip blogs, and anything she could weaponize. Joy had arrived unusually early, clutching a folder thick with printouts, her jaw tight with determination. The other hosts noticed immediately. When Whoopi Goldberg gently asked what was going on, Joy brushed her off with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The makeup team whispered they'd seen this look before. Joy was hunting. And when Joy hunted, someone always bled. Asterisk. The audience filed in excitedly, hoping for a glimpse of Jennifer. The warm-up comedian performed his routine, the theme music played, and Jennifer walked out with her trademark grace, completely unaware she was stepping into a trap crafted specifically to tear her down. Asterisk. Joy began this segment with her usual mix of confidence and artificial warmth, welcoming the wonderful Jennifer Garner. But behind this smile was something colder, calculating, predatory. Jennifer settled in with open, genuine enthusiasm, ready to talk about her film. Asterisk. At first, everything went as expected. They discussed the movie, the emotional journey of her character, the research she'd done, and the real mothers she had spoken with. The audience was captivated. Whoopi asked thoughtful questions. Sarah complimented her dress and asked about motherhood. Everything was pleasant. Asterisk. But anyone paying attention could see the shift. Joy's smile tightened. Her tone sharpened. Her questions took on an uncomfortable edge. Sunny Hostin glanced nervously at the producers. Something was building. Something dangerous. Asterisk. You're always playing these wholesome women, Joy said suddenly, her false warmth evaporating. She leaned forward with the intensity of a predator. Mothers, caretakers, angels on earth. Don't you ever get tired of being nice all the time? Asterisk. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The audience gave a strained, nervous laugh. Jennifer smiled politely, but confusion flickered in her eyes. Asterisk. She answered gracefully, explaining the strength in kindness and compassion. Asterisk. Joy waved her off dismissively. But aren't you worried people don't take you seriously? You're still called America's mom. Doesn't that get under your skin? Doesn't it bother you that you're pigeonholed as the nice girl while other actresses get the serious roles? The trap had been set. The other hosts exchanged worried glances. Whoopi leaned back cautiously. Sarah's smile faltered. Sunny tapped her note cards nervously. Asterisk Jennifer straightened, steel beginning to edge her voice. I don't think compassion is weakness. Joy. If anything, compassion is something we could use more of these days, especially in spaces like this. Jennifer's voice was calm, but there was a quiet force behind it. Joy chuckled, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Oh, please. Compassion is great for Instagram posts and charity galas, but it's not winning you any Oscars, Jennifer. Look at the industry. Nice doesn't sell. Nice doesn't win awards. Nice is just safe. Asterisk, the audience released an uneasy laugh that faltered almost immediately. Something in the room shifted. People could feel it. This wasn't harmless banter anymore. The air thickened with a sharp, uncomfortable tension. For a moment, Jennifer's expression remained serene, but then something flickered in her eyes. Something real. Something tired. She leaned forward slightly, her voice quieter but edged with warning. A warning Joy completely missed. Asterisk, maybe that's why the world's become so cynical, Jennifer said. Everyone's chasing applause and headlines instead of peace and actual human connection. Asterisk, a ripple of murmurs swept through the audience, surprise, agreement, disbelief. Joy blinked, caught off guard by the firmness in Jennifer's tone. This was not the gentle, agreeable Jennifer Garner she had expected to bulldoze without resistance. Asterisk Whoopi noticed instantly. She shifted in her seat like a referee sensing a fight about to explode. Okay, ladies, she said with a strained smile. Let's not start World War II before the commercial break. But the tension refused to settle. It crackled through the studio like static before a storm. Asterisk's Joy, smelling weakness, instead of warning, leaned in even harder. I just think it's interesting, she said coldly. Some people play nice for the camera, but they don't always live that way off it. Hollywood's full of those types, isn't it? Asterisk, the words hit like a slap. Gasps burst across the audience. A few people physically recoiled as if expecting a physical blow. Camera operators exchanged anxious glances. In the control room, producers waved frantic signals. Asterisk, Jennifer's jaw tightened. The disbelief in her eyes was unmistakably a mixture of hurt, shock, and something deeper, heavier. She took a slow breath, steadying herself with the grace of someone who had swallowed a lifetime of disrespect in silence. Asterisk, I hope you're not suggesting something personal about me, Joy, she said. Her voice was calm, but it rang with the brittle sharpness of thin ice over deep water, because that would be incredibly inappropriate. Asterisk, Joy smiled a thin, mean smile. I'm just saying Hollywood's full of surprises. People aren't always what they seem. Surely you'd agree with that. Asterisk, this was no longer an interview. It had turned into a battlefield. Asterisk, Jennifer's fingers curled around the armrest. Years of media training urged her to smile it off. Pivot to the movie, stay gracious. But something inside her had finally cracked. This was the line, and Joy had crossed it. Asterisk, I've worked very hard to stay true to myself, Jennifer said, her voice trembling with restrained emotion. I've tried to live with integrity, to treat people with respect, to be honest about my struggles and my growth. If that doesn't fit your idea of entertainment, if kindness and authenticity somehow bore you, that's your problem, not mine. Asterisk, the audience erupted. Not polite applause thunder. A tidal wave of support rising out of nowhere. Whoopi's eyes went wide. Sarah N mouthed, oh my God. Sunny suddenly became very interested in her note cards, desperate to give the moment somewhere else to land. Asterisk, Joy didn't blink. If anything, the applause seemed to irritate her. Touchy, she muttered into her microphone, just loud enough. Asterisk, Jennifer's head snapped toward her. The warmth that defined her Hollywood sweetheart glow was gone. What replaced it was fierce, unwavering. Razor-sharp. Asterisk, you know, Joy, she said, her voice slicing clean through the studio. I came here to talk about my film, not to defend my character against baseless insinuations. But since you've decided to go there, let me be very clear. Kindness isn't an act. It's not a performance. It's a choice I make every single day even when I'm sitting across from people who confuse cruelty with honesty. Silence fell like a curtain. Heavy, dense, absolute. Whoopi leaned forward quickly. "We're going to go to break," she said urgently, gesturing to the producers. "We need a break." But Jennifer wasn't done. The dam had burst. Years of smiling through disrespect, of absorbing invasive questions, of always being the bigger person, every swallowed slight came flooding out. Asterisk, we don't need more cynics in this world. "Joy," she said, her voice softer but somehow even more powerful. "We don't need more people tearing each other down for ratings. We need people who still believe in decency, in respect, in treating other human beings with basic dignity." Asterisk, the applause exploded again louder than before, rolling through the room like thunder. Some audience members jumped to their feet. Others sat frozen, wide-eyed, where they were witnessing something unprecedented. Asterisk, Joy forced a laugh. About this time it was hollow, brittle, and exposed. "Well, looks like I hit a nerve." Joy's voice carried a smug confidence, but Jennifer didn't flinch. She tilted her head slightly, and when she spoke, her voice was quiet yet devastating. Asterisk, no, Joy, you hit a mirror. Asterisk, the reaction was instantaneous. The studio erupted. Gasps, shouts, hands over mouths, and audible shockwave rolled through the room. In the control booth, producers' voices crackled urgently through earpieces. Cut to commercial. Now asterisk, Whoopi's voice rose above the chaos. Professional, but strained. "We'll be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere." Asterisk, the familiar transition music swelled. As the cameras faded to black, the energy on that set became nuclear. Jennifer exhaled slowly, her hands trembling just enough to betray the calm she was trying desperately to project. Joy looked away, her satisfied smirk fading, replaced by an uneasy flicker of doubt. Asterisk, the audience broke into frantic whispers. Phones appeared instantly. Texts, tweets, clips, everything was already going viral before the commercial break even ended. Asterisk, everyone knew it. When the show returned, nothing would ever be the same again. Asterisk, during the break, chaos exploded behind the scenes. Producers sprinted between the control room and the stage. The floor manager whispered urgently into Whoopi's ear. Whoopi kept shaking her head. No, no, absolutely not. Sunny looked shell-shocked, frozen in her seat. Sarah darted glances between Jennifer and Joy, like she was watching a car accident unfold in slow motion. Asterisk, Jennifer sat perfectly still. Hands folded in her lap, breathing deliberately. Inside, her heart pounded so loudly she could hear it in her ears. She had done something she had never done in 3 decades of interviews. She had fought back. Publicly, fiercely, without apology, asterisk, Joy. Meanwhile, was scrolling through her phone, her face tightening with each passing second. The internet was already choosing a side. And it wasn't hers. Asterisk, when the show returned from commercial, the air felt thick enough to choke on. The theme music played. The cameras came up. Everyone in the studio and everyone watching from home leaned forward to see what would happen next. Asterisk, welcome back to The View. Whoopi said with forced cheerfulness stretched thin over raw tension. We're here with Jennifer Garner, who's been sharing some very honest thoughts about her new film, and a few other things. She laughed lightly, desperately trying to reset the tone. Asterisk, Jennifer turned to her, her expression softening in gratitude. Thank you, Whoopi. I appreciate the opportunity to have these conversations. Asterisk, Joy crossed her legs, leaned in again, and the smirk returned. Oh, we're always having conversations here, Jennifer. Some people just don't like it when those conversations get real. Asterisk, the audience gasped again, the long, rising gasp of people sensing blood in the water. Asterisk, Jennifer opened her mouth to respond. But Sarah jumped in like she was diving between 2 cars about to collide. So, Jennifer, tell us about the new movie. You play a mother trying to rebuild her life after tragedy, right? That must have been emotionally challenging. Asterisk, Jennifer nodded gratefully at the lifeline. Yes, it's about rediscovering your strength when life forces you to start over. It's about finding hope when asterisk's joy cut through her words like a blade. You've had to practice that in your own life, right? After, everything with Ben, asterisk, the studio didn't just gasp it, recoiled. The collective intake of breath was so sharp and loud it registered on the mics. Some audience members jerked backward as if physically slapped. A woman in the third row covered her mouth. Another shook her head in disbelief. Asterisk, the atmosphere shifted from tense to openly stunned. Joy hadn't asked a tough question. She'd launched a personal attack on national television, targeting one of Jennifer's most painful chapters. Asterisk, Jennifer froze. The mask of grace slipped for a moment, revealing raw hurt beneath. Her eyes widened, her lips parted, her breath caught. It was all visible: the shock, the wound. The realization that this wasn't just hostile, this was an execution attempt. But slowly, painfully. Deliberately, Jennifer inhaled. She straightened with the practiced dignity of someone who had endured storms. Most people would never see. She sat back in her chair.